touch, they break, they steal, no one here is free. Here they come for thee, unless you listen to Dave and Stacie.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions. My co-host Stacie here to talk about From Season 3, Episode 3, titled Mousetrap. The episode's description reads as follows. Kenny leads a group into the forest in search of food as Donna and Ellis try to talk Boyd out of a dangerous plan. Meanwhile, Tabitha makes a mind-bending discovery. The episode was written by Bridget Hales and directed by Jack Bender. Before we go any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out and then give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms this podcast is now available on, please follow and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions. And if you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. All right, shout-outs this week. I actually have them.
Yeah, so we are now going back to
Episode 1.
Talk about Episode 1 a little bit because we are pre-recording, but Episode 1 has now aired.
Yes.
So we have some listener feedback as well as some general viewer feedback about the episode. And even a couple things I noticed this time around. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about Episode 1 for a few minutes.
Yes. So, Mike, an admin of one of the From groups that I recently joined and gave me permission to post the links. I've reached out to a lot of admins to make sure that was kosher. Said that he thanked me for sharing that link in the link for that podcast in that group. Ashley Wright says that we are well connected thanks to our Alex and Lizzie podcast.
We're working on it.
That is the What Is From cast. Yeah, so we have connections between that podcast as well as the Quantum Leap podcast and some other stuff. So yeah, we're getting up there in the world. He says that the episode 1 was a creepy start for real. He expected to get the Freddy Krueger song in there as well, and it's good to hear from two people who love what they watch, and that's why he listens to us.
Thank you.
Barb Meets World commented on the What Is From cast that the collaboration. And she says, "Hey y'all, new subby here. Great conversation. I'm so excited for this premiere. I think it's safe to say we're in for a wild ride this season." And yeah, by the way, Barb Meets World has her own YouTube channel.
Okay.
She seems to cover the Real Housewives a lot.
Ooh.
And it's interesting because we have screeners for that.
We do. I don't watch them, but we have them.
We have them. So, Barb Meets World, if you haven't subscribed to her channel, you should go and do that.
Well, she said she's a new sub, didn't she?
She did. No, I meant go subscribe to
her channel.
Channel.
Gotcha.
That's
well,
what...
Barb, welcome to the channel, and thanks for being here.
Yes, absolutely. Carla Mack, she listened to
our narrator.
Yes, our theme performer. She actually, she said when she heard which version of the song that she gave me, which, by the way, she gave me 2 versions, and I chose one. And, of course, the one I chose was the one that she said, unless you listen to Dave and Stacie, she knew I was going to choose that one. And then there's Latrice. Latrice, of course, is a longtime viewer. She's been with us since last season of From. And she says, yay, she's been waiting for the reaction from her favorite From commentators. Thank you for that.
Yay, I'm glad to be your favorite.
Yes.
That makes me feel good. It's really nice every time we get the validation that people actually like to hear what we have to say.
Yes.
It still surprises me every time we hear that.
They really, really like us. Some people, anyway. So she thinks that the town people resort to cannibalism, which is something you brought up last week, due to a lack of food. That this is actually what triggers the town turning into the next generation of monsters. Yeah, this is before we see episode 2. But I think this has been a point that's been mooted somewhat. But the lighthouse in From reminds her of the cave in the Netflix show Dark, where depending on which way you turn, inside of it, you end up in a different place in time. And she does agree that if the little boy had pushed her through a window differently in the lighthouse, she would have ended up in a different character's hometown.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting thought. I'm reminded of the Jacob's lighthouse in Lost, which, depending on where he pointed the mirror at, different degrees, it would go to a different candidate's, not only into where they were at, but also a different time. to meet up with them when he needed to connect with them. So I don't think it worked exactly like that. That'd be a little too similar, I think, if we're getting a little too connected to Lost. But yeah, I definitely think that there's more to the lighthouse than just, well, you got to get pushed out a window.
Right. On the Bacta theory, she thought that was a really intriguing theory to explain her absence.
I liked my theory, but in this episode 3, we're debunking that.
Yeah, she was in the bathroom.
Yeah.
They don't specifically say that.
I'll talk about that a little more when we get to this episode. But my theory has been shattered by episode 3.
I see what you did there.
Actually, I didn't mean to do that, but yeah.
So Arthur Parkerhouse says that Boyd was hit with buckshot from a shotgun. Buckshot is not a single slug, but rather has a lot of pebble-sized ammo in each round that sprays out. That's why he has 5 wounds.
Yes, and that's not something I understood, but I have seen somebody else mention it since then. I want to say it was somebody on Alex and Lizzie's show mentioned that.
Chris, who is a comment that for some reason I never got notified about until I happened to just be looking through the comments to prepare this episode. He says that basically that Tian Chen is a popular character, Mrs. Wu, and she will likely come back as a ghost or in Kenny's imagination. And by the way, if you haven't already watched it, we do have an interview with Mrs. Wu herself, Elizabeth Moy, up already.
Yes, go check that out if you haven't watched it. She talks about everything that we saw in episodes 1 and 2.
And that is it for my shout-outs. I don't know if you have anything.
I've got just some general points from around the internet, not necessarily specific shout-outs.
Okay.
So we were curious, of course, of what people are going to think of the new season, the general audience.
I think the episode 1 reaction was generally pretty positive.
It was generally pretty positive.
There were, of course, the usual complaints.
I saw 2 people say that the episode was too short. It was 51 minutes, episode 1.
Right.
Which is an extended episode of television.
Yes.
But 2 is not bad, because last season everybody was saying it was too short. Now, this episode 3 is only 47 minutes. It's the shortest of the 3 so far.
Yes.
So I bet you we're going to see more people complaining.
That's standard issue.
Exactly. That's right where
television.
it should be.
Yeah.
A standard hour of television, once you take the commercials out, which is how we view this. It's how everybody views this, because MGM doesn't put commercials in it, is 42 to 48 minutes. So 47 minutes is right where it should be, but I guarantee the complaints are going to be tenfold on that. I only saw one person complain that the episode was slow.
I saw a couple people say that.
And then I had one I saw said it was underwhelming. I don't know how.
Right.
You were watching the wrong show.
Yeah.
If you thought this was slow and underwhelming, episode 1, you might as well quit now.
Right.
Because that was a crazy, busy, powerful wow episode.
Yeah.
And I think all 3 episodes so far have been pretty wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, a lot of stuff's happening.
Yeah. So it's interesting because, trying to guess what the fan reaction would be to certain things and then actually seeing it play
Full out, yeah.
And it's interesting to me that a lot of people were saying that Tabitha should have gone to the authorities rather than avoid the authorities.
A lot of people seem to think that.
Now, I'm going to ask, what exactly would the authorities do? Because you can't...
They wouldn't have done anything.
Right. Well, one, if you are lucky enough to find somebody who doesn't just think you're completely nuts, what are they going to do? There's no way to get into Frumville unless Frumville wants you there.
Right.
I mean, maybe there is, but how are the authority figures, going to figure out how to get there? The answer is they're not. So I don't really see what going to the authorities would have done. But my question to you is now, after we've seen the story play out, or maybe I shouldn't even ask this now, maybe I should wait till later to discuss this.
About stuff that happened in this episode?
Yeah, well,
Let's talk about it later.
I mean, specifically asking the question, what would you have preferred Tabitha do than what she had done?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like her decision was just as rational of a decision as if she had gone for help.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people...
what she wants to do is find answers, and she's not going to trust that in the authorities. She wants to go look for answers herself, and I don't blame her.
Yeah, I don't either. Some people thought that was a plot hole. No, that was a character decision.
Right.
Based on not trusting the authorities.
Right.
And why would you?
Which is a logical way of thinking.
Yes.
Now, it would make just as much sense if somebody did decide to talk to the police.
Yes.
But she didn't do that. So that's where we're at. One thing that I've seen lots and lots and lots of complaints about. People think that Henry, Robert Joy, looks the same age as Victor, Scott McCord.
Yes.
And at this point, after only watching episode 1, they haven't been told explicitly this is his father.
Right.
Which they I'm curious to see the episode 2 feedback, because episode 2 hasn't aired yet for us,
right,
as of when we're talking. But Tabitha said, "Oh, you're his father,"
right,
and people are still like, "Well, that doesn't mean he is."
No, he definitely is.
He definitely is. I'm just so confused why there's such a general consensus that he doesn't look old enough to play Victor's father. So the actors are Robert Joyce 73.
Yes.
Scott McCord is 53.
Yes.
There's 20-year age difference.
Yes.
Which is just the right age to be playing
right.
a father-son.
Right, yeah.
He had a kid when he was 20. That's perfectly plausible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any problems with the casting here.
No,
and people are acting like this is a big clue that, oh, that can't be his father because they're the same age. No, they're not. To the point where I had someone literally arguing with me that I was just giving my opinion that they're 20 years apart.
No, all you have to go to is go to Internet Movie
right.
Database, and that information is available.
This particular person, I almost had to block somebody. I try not to block from people, but I almost blocked this person because she was literally arguing with me back and forth, and she was like, well, that's the actor's age. That has nothing to do with the character's age. Well, true. You can be a different age as your actor and your character.
Yes, and your point is that the characters look too similar in age to be actual father and son. But the actors are that age.
Exactly.
They have that age difference.
Exactly, so, which means it is plausible for them to play father and son.
Right.
Now, if the actors were 2 years apart in age, you could make the argument that they look like they're the same age because they are the same age.
And there's plenty of times where that actually does happen.
Right, that does happen too.
Right, particularly when you have an actor that was...
So, no, we don't know Victor or Henry's exact ages.
Right.
But we know that their ages are pretty close to their actors' ages.
Right. Yeah.
Specifically, we're told, and I don't remember if this was, I think it was in episode 2, that it was Henry's 35th birthday.
Okay.
When him and Miranda did drugs and she started seeing the images. It was his 35th birthday.
That wasn't this episode?
I think that was episode 2.
Okay. Yeah,
when they were in the basement.
You're probably right, yeah.
When they were in the basement looking. Oh, maybe it was this episode. No, it was in episode 2. It was when they first went to see the paintings.
Okay.
Either way, we can talk about it.
Right.
See, this is why we can't watch ahead, because then we wouldn't be able to talk about anything, because we'd be like, wait, what? Can we talk about that? We've only watched, folks, through episode 3.
Right.
We have episodes past that. We have not watched them, because it would break our ability to have this conversation. Mm-hmm. So anything we say in this podcast is based on what we saw in the first 3 episodes. And if we get something right, it's because we guessed it. Not because we're spilling information.
Because we are really, really that smart.
But if Henry was 35 before they went to Fromville, and he already said Victor's been gone for 40 years, and Victor was about 10, that would make Victor about 50,
and him about 75.
He would have been 75, right? Yeah. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And I hope by now, episode 3, these people are on board with that this isn't a lie. I mean, well, we're going to revisit all that anyways, but that it's a plausible story that this is his father, at least.
Yeah.
In a similar vein, I had to reply to at least 3 different threads on social media asking how Grandma was able to get in the house when there was a talisman hanging.
Yeah, I've seen that a bunch of times.
Because Ethan opened the door.
Right.
Are we watching the same show? And I know those people aren't the ones listening to a podcast about it. They're not our audience.
No.
Because the people listening to us are the ones who are digging deeper and are paying attention and are looking for, like, the crazy theories.
Yeah.
They're not trying to figure out how the talisman work.
Right, yeah.
So yes, Ethan opened the door is how Grandma got in.
They are still basically operating under, these are vampires and you have to be invited in, which has never been said.
It's not the case. Yeah, as soon as you open the door, the talisman don't work. Door or window, break the seal, they can come in.
Right.
Similarly, people are asking, and I'm dumbfounded how many people are asking these questions, which is why I'm bringing them up. Just in case somebody listening to us is still confused by these things, I've typed these answers over and over again in social media, but, I just want to address them here, because these questions are being asked so much. People are asking, how did the creatures get in the barn if Boyd hung a talisman?
Right, that happened after the creatures were already in the barn.
They were in the barn, hiding. They were there.
Yes.
They opened the barn when there wasn't a talisman on it.
Right.
Went inside and waited for Boyd.
Right.
And then Boyd came in, locked the door, hung up the talisman, but they were already in. What do
Yes.
you want the talisman to do? Banish them once they're already inside? That's not how it works.
Yeah.
All it does is lock the door. It locked them in, if anything.
Right.
I mean, which is another issue because it didn't actually lock them in because they weren't there in the morning.
Right.
So they did manage to get out.
That is interesting.
That's something worth talking about, I think.
So, actually, that's a question that Boy can answer for us. What happened? Did they leave through
Right.
that door, or...
Right. Were they able to take the talisman down?
Right.
Or were they just able to open the door because the talisman's on the same side of it as them?
Or did the monsters just disappear once daylight hit?
Right.
Yeah.
Or is this proof the talisman don't actually do anything?
So, that is actually my theory. I
know a lot of people have suggested that throughout, that maybe the talisman don't do anything. They're just respecting the rules that the people think the talisman follow
Right.
for the fun of it.
So, that actually fits into my episode 1 theory, that everything here it happens here is by design, that nobody dies unless they are designed to die. Like this is their death day. If you are set to die, you die. If you are not on this list that they're making up for who's going to die, you don't die, no matter what. So, anybody who's not supposed to die, like in episode 1, Mrs. Wu was supposed to die, so she dies. Ethan and Julie were never in any actual danger. The monsters were just going to chase them around, and they were going to get away somehow, no matter what.
Well, even if you're right that certain people are supposed to die in certain times, I do think there's other people who are maybe disposable.
Okay,
And they don't care when they die, so they would just kill them for no reason.
maybe,
Because not everybody has to have some predestinated reason to die.
but
Like, we do have a lot of extras.
we do. So my theory is that the talismans actually don't do a damn thing. They only provide the illusion of protection.
And a lot of people think that.
Yeah.
But that is the thing here to talk about, is how did they get out?
Right.
But the question is not how did they get in, they were already in. And that's the
Yes.
question everybody's asking.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right, anything else?
Russell Sutherland, that's Carla's brother.
Yes.
He put on Twitter, with everything that has happened in Season 3, Episode 1, I find myself more interested in Jim and Kenny's discovery. This destroys a few theories of mine, but reinforce another theory
I saw that comment, yes.
by a lot, and I'm dying for next week's episode. And you asked him what theories, and I don't think he answered you yet.
Right.
So maybe he'll tell us after he watches Episode 2.
See, I would like one of two things to happen. I would either like Russell Sutherland to come on the channel, interview with us, and explain his theories, because he could do it way better than I ever could. Or maybe Russell could provide us with a little video clip that we can insert into one of our podcasts, explaining his theories. So, yeah, I think I'm going to reach out to Russell and see if he's interested in either one of those scenarios.
Sure. He also pointed out that Tabitha's room number at the hospital was 2225, and 2 plus 2 and 2 plus 5 equals 47.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that's something we did talk about at the end of Season 2.
I'm pretty sure that we did.
But he didn't recall seeing that before, and it's a good thing to bring up again.
Yes.
Because there we are with our numbers 4 and 7. Keep an eye out for them, because those are definitely our from numbers.
Yes.
4 and 7, 47, 74. They mean something.
They absolutely
They
do.
definitely mean something. What? I have no idea. Live tweeting for week 1 was a success.
It was, definitely.
Oh my goodness. I had direct interactions from an MGM official page.
Yep.
Harold Perrineau, Elizabeth Moy, Simon Webster, liking my tweets, retweeting them, replying to them.
Mm-hmm.
My most popular tweet was the one saying to protect Alma at all costs, and I used hashtag Save Alma, which Simon Webster says is his new favorite hashtag, and Harold retweeted that one, so it got a lot of attention.
That's good.
Yeah. Hashtag Save Alma. I hope she lives.
Yes.
I want her to be the sole survivor at the end of all this.
Okay, so
Maybe 1 or 2 humans, but Alma has to walk out of there.
Okay.
Okay? Save Alma. That's where we're at. And that is for Simon Webster.
Well, that's it. If Alma dies, we will be crushed completely. And so let's not let that happen.
All right. Now, a couple thoughts for me, things that I noticed while rewatching Episode 1.
Episode 1 specifically.
Yeah.
Still on that.
Still on that, because
Yes.
I rewatched it another 3 times since we talked about it. To
Right.
do the live tweeting and all this.
Yes.
So I failed to grasp this when we were talking about it. And you mentioned it. The elevator.
Yes.
Showing the number 13 and then going to 12.
Yep.
And in the moment we were having that conversation, I was just stuck on the fact that, yeah, she's not on level 2, she's on level 12.
Right.
But the fact that it showed 13, which I know you started to say, but I kind of didn't click to me. Hospitals don't have a 13th floor.
Oh, okay.
Hospitals always skip the number 13 because people don't want to be admitted to a hospital on floor 13 because it's superstitious.
Okay.
I've never seen a hospital that has a 13. Now, it might have a floor, but it's not on the elevator, or it'll skip and say 14, even though it's really 13.
Gotcha.
You're never going to see most buildings, you're never going to see a 13, but specifically hospitals, you're not going to see a 13th floor.
Right.
So the fact that they decided to show us that feels very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if that's a clue to what we're talking about in this episode of, is this world fake or not?
Interesting. And
I feel like that's one of those clues that we can think about.
Interesting. The world might be fake, but it seems like the people in it are real,
right,
based on how this episode ends.
Right. So, but that's one of those things, is that doesn't feel realistic that there's a 13th floor in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't just feel like, oh, they didn't think of that when they were filming, because where are they filming this? That there was a 13 anyways on the elevator. I feel like it was
Right.
very intentionally put there.
I'm sure it was. I do believe that the creators...
And very intentionally shown to us.
Yeah. I think the creators do everything that they do in this series intentionally. Now, someone who disputes that is Bob Mann, who thinks that there's no way that they put that much time and effort into thinking
Now,
about
he
those kind of
did,
things.
the last time he was on the What Is From cast,
Yeah.
he did a live thing with Alex and Lizzie a couple weeks ago, right before the season started. And he did kind of call back on that. And he said, I've always said, no, there's nothing to all these details. But he was like, well, maybe there is something to some of them that as an actor we're not aware of. Maybe
Right.
they are putting more thought into it than we know.
Mm.
And he, kind of retracted his idea that it's all nonsense.
Did he say that he said it on our channel?
I mean, I think he's been saying that
Okay.
all over the place.
Gotcha.
And to them specifically,
Yep,
because
okay.
he's talked to them a bunch. But he kind of called that back. And of course, Lizzie loved that because she's all on all the crazy theory ideas. And Alex was like, no, don't tell her that.
Right, yeah.
And the other thing that I noticed, which other people have noticed, I've seen this brought up this week, but I did notice it the first time I was rewatching it when the episode actually aired. And, to be able to watch the episode with subtitles is amazing. Because my brain, I watch everything with subtitles. When we get the screeners, there are no subtitles.
Yes.
So I'm always going to catch more things when I'm watching it on the actual broadcast
Gotcha.
than I could have no matter how many times I watched the screener, just because I can't read it.
Yeah.
But this isn't that issue, so I'm not even sure why I'm bringing that up. But the sign in the church, when she's talking to the priest,
Yeah.
there's a sign and it says 104, 19, 20.
Okay.
So I looked up Psalm 104, lines 19 and 20.
Okay.
And I'm going to read them.
Okay.
He made the moon to mark the seasons, and the sun knows when to go down. You bring darkness, it becomes night, and all the beasts of the forest prowl.
Wow.
So that seems very appropriate.
It does.
Yeah, they definitely put that number on the church on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, is it a clue to something about this town and this world? I don't know, but it's definitely intentional that we're talking about creatures at night.
Well, it's interesting because Katri's theory was that what they were experiencing had something to do with the Bible.
Sure, he's like, we're living in book 74.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of tracks. So maybe this is something to do with the Bible.
Could be. And let's see. I did a Twitter poll.
Okay.
And it's fun to be able to do those again.
Yes.
So after watching episode 1, again, of course, that's all general audience has seen so far, I said, was it really Tabitha's mom on the phone?
Mm-hmm.
Has she successfully made contact with the real world, or are we still suspicious? Which this pulls into what we're talking about in today's episode.
Yep.
But after watching episode 1, this is what people had thought. 52% said yes, this is proof that she's out.
Okay.
48% said it's a trick.
So basically they're pretty...
That's really close.
Yeah.
The audience is suspicious.
Mm.
After I watched episode 1, I wasn't suspicious. Now I'm suspicious that there's more going on here than straightforwardness.
I mean, so far they haven't indicated that, but who knows?
Well, and we'll get to it, of course, but Tabitha questions at some point that none of this is real. It's all fake. She's in something. She's about to wake up and start over again.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, all too coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of fall somewhere in the middle right now. Like, I don't think it's all fake and pretend. I trust Henry.
Yeah.
100%. But there's more going on than this is the real world and these are real events and everything is just coincidental.
Right.
There's definitely more going on. You're not out. Like, things are still happening here, even if this is somehow part of the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the boy in white's here. Like, a lot of stuff's going on. There's more layers to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely more layers. And one more thing from episode 2 I noticed, and then we can get into the new episode.
Okay.
Because I rewatched episode 2 one more time as well. And I know, you're looking at the clock, like, how long are we talking? One thing I noticed from episode 2 is that Victor's childhood bedroom has peaches on the wallpaper.
Oh, okay.
It's a border.
Craziness.
It's a wallpaper border around the bedroom that Victor and Eloise sleep in, and they're peaches. Like whole peach, cut in half peach. Whole peach, cut in half peach.
Well, that's interesting.
It's very interesting because
Right.
this goes into this, like, coincidence?
I doubt it.
Or what does it mean? Because we're not going by the assumption that he eats peaches because he loves peaches. The assumption is he eats peaches because there was a truck full of peaches and that's what he had to eat for 40 years.
Right.
Or was there a truck full of peaches because he loves peaches?
Maybe. You never know.
Like, there's something there.
Huh.
Like, why would he have peaches on his bedroom wall? He must have loved peaches.
He must have.
Before going to From.
Yeah, or maybe peaches reminded him of home because of this wallpaper. Maybe it has nothing to do with the peaches themselves, but it's because of the wallpaper.
But then how much of a coincidence is that a truck full of peaches is what he has to live on for 40 years?
Maybe it's not a coincidence at all. Maybe it's set up by design.
Does this lead to the theory some people have that this entire realm is in Victor's imagination?
Which I sincerely hope not.
Did he manifest the peach truck because he wanted peaches?
Right.
Did he bring all of these people there? Are all these people just figments of his imagination and they're not even real? Is Tabitha going to find out she never had a life outside of From?
I sincerely hope not. I think if it goes to the point where they're saying that Victor is, the imagining all this, that I'm going to throw things at the TV.
Is he Tommy Westfall?
Yeah, basically. So if you're wondering why our podcast in the past went on for 3 hours when talking about From, I think we just demonstrated it. Is that it for season 1 or season 2 thoughts?
Episode 1.
Episode, that's what I meant.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
I'm ready to talk about this episode 3.
Okay, so your thoughts about this episode.
I really enjoyed it. I was thrown off by what's happening at the end. I was surprised by it. I was screaming in delight and terror.
Right.
Because it surprised me. Like, we know this is coming. We know that's coming. I suspect this is coming. And then it's here, and I'm like, oh, wait. That's not what I was expecting.
So,
and we'll talk about that, like, when we get there. But, yeah, it was able to surprise me, which is an amazing thing.
Right.
That it can still, like, surprise me, even though I'm so on top of what's going on.
So, I think this is another great episode. When it first started, for a little while, I wasn't totally feeling it. I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to be one of the weaker episodes. But then, bam, it just, like, it hits you. It basically slow plays you.
Yeah, sure, not every episode can be, like, crazy, busy.
Yeah.
But still, a lot's happening here. Like, Tabitha's journey.
Yep.
Which goes somewhere.
Right. Well, I thought this was more like a chess moving.
The whole thing going on with, like, the bear trap.
Yes.
Which the episode's called Mouse Trap. It's about a bear trap, though, the trap part of it.
Yeah.
So you got to think, like, why is it called Mouse Trap? And you think about, like, the game Mouse Trap, where you're
I'm thinking
running around
right.
in different, like it's a setup.
You're basically setting up Rube Goldberg contraptions to trap a mouse in that game.
Yeah. So is that saying that everything these characters are going through is intentional? Every single bit of it?
I think that's the case.
And then we've got some crazy stuff going on with, like, what's going on with those totems.
Right.
And Victor's visions.
Yes.
There's a lot of meat in this episode.
Victor's, you mean Jade?
Jade's visions?
Yeah.
Victor! I can't wait to watch the next episode because we stop with Victor halfway through this episode and we don't get back to it. What's he about to tell Sarah?
Right, yes.
There's stuff going on with Victor, but it's very downplayed. It's not happening here, but we're being told we're about to learn something from Victor.
So, I watched this episode for the first time when my kid was over. She was fiddling around with her tablet. And by the time when I got to the end of the episode, I forgot that she was there. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, that was my literal reaction at the end of the episode. And she's like, what? I'm like, oh, something going on a television show I'm watching. But yeah. That was my literal reaction when we got to the end of this episode when I heard what the EMT driver said. But we'll get to all that.
Yeah. Before we go into the scene by scene, I want to go through the cast for this episode and its changes.
There's one specific person that I want to mention.
Okay.
The EMT at the end of the episode is Caleb McDonald.
Yes.
Who we talked about quite a bit.
He is a name we know here on the channel.
Right. And I'm convinced he's going to be dead by the end of the next episode.
I think it's possible he lasts like an episode or two.
Yeah.
I know one of them dies for sure,
Yeah.
based on just the trailer.
Right.
But I feel like one of them might last an episode or two.
And if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be him. Caleb McDonald, of course, was we talked about it in our Sullivan's Crossing.
Yeah, he was in 5 episodes of Sullivan's Crossing Season 1. He played Caleb.
And he's going to be talked about again when we talk about Kids versus Aliens. We've already talked about that.
Yeah.
We've already done that.
That's the end of the month, right?
Yes,
the
yep.
30th?
30, I'm not sure.
And it's, I think, our last Halloween.
Yeah.
So it's at the end of this month, Kids versus Aliens, and Caleb McDonald stars in that as Billy, alongside with Phoebe Rex, who is Kelly, mistethered to the tree.
Yep.
So yeah, it's cool that he's part of From now.
Yes.
Because that places both of them in the Fromily, and that's great.
All right, so I'm going to let you go through the rest of the cast because that's the only one I actually cared about.
Okay, so as far as our main cast goes, Elizabeth Moy has now officially been removed from the opening credits.
Yes.
So she was only listed in main cast for those first 2 episodes that she actually appeared in. Which means if we do see Elizabeth Moy again, she'll be a special guest star. She's out of the main cast credits now. Which means we had room now, apparently, and finally, Angela Moore has been added back to the cast credits.
Yeah. All our crazy theories about that, and she was just in the bathroom, missing for 2 episodes.
Yeah, so Angela Moore finally added back to the cast credits as Bacta. And it's just what's really strange about that, to me, is that other characters missed episodes. Like,
Yes.
Mariel wasn't in episode 1. She wasn't in this episode. So far, she's only been in episode 2.
Yeah.
But she's main cast listed on the opening credits. Because
Yes.
that's what main cast means, is whether you're in the episode or not, you're in the opening credits. So, and it's got some contractual money thing where Angela Moore was cut down to 8 episodes for this season. And I'm guessing it had something to do with Elizabeth Moy being in 2 episodes, and they didn't want to pay people, you know what I mean? They, like, split the spa, is what I'm thinking.
So, her not being around for episode 1, fine. I do find it very weird that she was not at least in the funeral scene.
Yeah.
Even like...
But, I mean, other people weren't, too. There were other people missing from the funeral.
Yeah.
But it's just, I just find it a weird choice that they removed her from the main cast credits for 2 episodes when other people that weren't in the episodes got to stay.
Right.
So I'm feeling a little jilted for Angela Moore, to be honest.
Well, let's get her on the channel and express our displeasure at that.
Now also added to the main cast in this episode finally is our other new cast member that we were introduced to right from the press release before the season started, in Samantha Brown.
Yes.
Her first appearance as Acosta. We meet Acosta in this episode very briefly, and I'm assuming we're going to get to know her a lot better as we go forward. Mm-hmm. But this is our first time meeting her. And I knew that right from the beginning we're going to meet her, and it still shocked me when we did.
Yep.
And then as far as who's not in the episode, but of course they are in the main credits. Again, I said Mariel's not here. We don't see her at all. Elgin is in the episode, but he doesn't have any lines. He's sleeping, and then he wakes up. He doesn't speak, so he's there.
I have a literal note in my notes that says, is Elgin going to be doing anything this season, or is he just going to sleep the entire season?
Sleeping, trying to sleep.
Right.
So yeah, he's there in that. He's physically present in the episode, but he doesn't actually have any lines. As far as guest starring, we have Father Kotri and Sean Majunder,
which is
again
2 out of 3 episodes.
All three he was listed as guest star.
Yeah.
So it's funny that he's been in 3 out of 3 episodes cast credits.
Yep.
As not a main cast member.
Right. Yep.
At this point, I kind of feel like they should have just brought him back as a main cast member.
Right. Yeah. Just go see Katri every episode.
And our additional cast, we have Clara again, Katarina Bacalias, Dale, Cliff Sanders makes his season 3 entrance. Love to see him. Colony House residents 1 and 2 return. We met them in episode 301. Both of them. They both return. And
that's one of the ones that appeared in The Sinner, right?
yes,
Yeah.
that's Colony House Resident 1. Eugene Sampung
Right?
is the actor, and he's actually given a name in this episode, but not in credits. In credits, he's just called Colony House Residence 1. His name is Roger.
Okay.
We call that out when one of the characters is talking to him. They call him Roger.
Well, he still doesn't have any lines, so he's not monster food yet.
Well, he has lines. That's why he's got a credit.
Oh, crap. Whoop.
So these are the 2 Colony House residents that have had lines in both episodes 1 and 3.
Gotcha.
They're the ones that were storming down Mrs. Lou's house.
Oh, that's right. What am I talking about? Of course,
And
he already
in
had
this,
lines.
they're the ones that joined the food gathering party.
Mm.
So they kind of disappear, which I had issue with. Like, where the heck are they at during all this?
Right.
But before that, they did have some lines. They were talking with Dale.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, you mentioned the EMTs. We have EMT 1, which is the driver. He's played by Kim Wyatt McKenzie. He's in one episode of Reacher, an episode of The Boys, and a whole bunch of Christmas movies.
Okay.
And then Caleb McDonald, of course, is EMT 2, who you've already spoken about. In addition to those credits, he is in 21 episodes of Moonshine,
Yes.
which is something else a bunch of our Nova Scotian actors,
Our actors,
including Reed Price, have been in. They're ours, right? We claim them.
Yes, we do. We do indeed. All right. So, anything else before diving in?
And
one more.
nope, we're good. Let's
Okay.
go right to the. Let's go right now. Half hour later.
Yeah.
35 minutes
Yep.
later to the actual scene by scene of episode 3. And I'll point out that if you put comments on this episode, actually I don't know anymore because we're breaking our recording schedule a little bit. We'll shout them out eventually.
Yes. Eventually, we will talk about
Probably
your comments.
episode 5.
Right,
I think
probably.
is where we're at.
Yep.
Eventually. So give us your feedback and we'll get to it when we do.
All right. So the episode begins with Jim on the phone with Thomas.
Right where we left off from last episode.
And by the way, the fact that Jim is basically instantly like, "You're not my son," and knows, and he's not impacted by this.
Yeah, he's
like,
not,
and nor
falling
should
for
he.
it. Like, your son was a baby when he died.
I rarely quibble with creative decisions that this from creative group makes, but ending the last episode with that as a cliffhanger was silly.
And I mentioned this when we recorded episode 2.
Yeah.
First time I watched that scene, I literally laughed out loud.
Yes.
Hysterically laughing at this. Like, what is happening?
It's not enough to mar that episode. That was still a great episode, but it's a silly way to end that episode because it has no emotional impact because Jim knows right away that this is not his son.
Right.
For all the reasons that I already discussed last week. But anyway.
Yeah, so he's like, yeah, you're not my son.
Yeah.
And I don't even think he says, who are you? He's just like, what are you doing?
Right. And the voice tells him he should be watching Julie and Ethan.
That he shouldn't let them play outside so close to dark. Remember, they didn't go home with him after the funeral. They're like, we're going to go check on the animals. They're being defiant. They don't want to be around Dad.
So this causes him to run after his
drops
kid.
the receiver.
Yeah.
And this is a very good response. Like, the last time a voice told him, like, someone shouldn't be doing something, that was when they told him Tabitha shouldn't be digging in the basement.
Yes.
And she disappeared for a few episodes. And, that led to Tom's death.
Right. Yes.
So, yes, if a voice is telling you someone shouldn't be doing anything, maybe you should listen to them.
So he runs outside. Boyd is ringing the bell, his routine for getting people to go into their houses. Boyd asks him if he's okay. Jim ends up snapping at him. He says he basically hurries his kids along. He ends up apologizing to Boyd for snapping at him and then says, things are getting worse around here, aren't they? And Boyd doesn't really say anything, but his lack of response is basically everything that Jim needs to know.
I feel like this instance is one of those examples of where they're not telling each other things.
Yes.
He should have told Boyd, my freaking phone just rang, pretending to be my dead son.
Right.
This is an instance where you should have told the truth. You ran into the person that would be best able to accept this information, and you're like, I'm fine. Yeah,
right.
I'm just getting my kids.
Okay, so I'll defend Jim here, and I don't want to do that because I generally do not like defending Jim. But he was in a panic.
Yeah, he was in a panic, but, like, hey, your kids are fine. You got them now. It's not dark yet. You're one house away from home. Boyd's asking you, like, what's going on?
Right.
You should have told him, like, they're taunting me. Something's happening. Like, they're trying to get to me. Open up to somebody. Mm-hmm. Especially to Boyd.
Yeah,
Like, Boyd is going through all this stuff, so... This would be a good time to share information.
Well, Jim, I tried to defend you a little bit, but that just fell flat.
And then we get our opening credits.
Yes. Que sera, sera. We already mentioned that Angel Moore is back. When we come back, Henry wakes up to a crashing sound. Tabitha has dropped a plate in the kitchen.
It was a glass, actually.
Okay. So, interesting here. I recently started watching Nowhere Man. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
I have not.
The episodes are available on YouTube. Now, I've seen Nowhere Man before. I never actually watched every single episode. It was canceled after one season. Carla Mack has the DVD, and she actually inspired me to go and watch all the series again. And things falling and breaking on the ground was a frequent motif in that series. So I don't know if that means anything for this series, but still it's interesting.
One thing that's notable is this is a callback to Mrs. Lou breaking a glass.
Yes.
In season 1. It was one of the early episodes. And I felt like there was another reference to broken glass in this show as well, but I couldn't pinpoint where. But I feel like it was either a conversation somebody had. Like, I feel like it came up. A broken glass, putting it back together, or something like that.
Okay.
You'd think I'd remember all of this after watching the episodes 500 times. But,
right.
But I still don't have it all memorized.
Yeah. So he helps her with her wounds. He asks questions about what happened to her back in Frumville. And she says she went to the tower for the children. And she basically ended up getting pushed out a window, ended up here. Henry says he assumed his entire family was dead, so he's not really bothered by the fact that Miranda isn't back dead. I mean, of course, he's not happy about that, but
he's already grieved her many years ago. So she's trying to tiptoe around like, oh, the day she died,
right?
And he's like, it's okay, you can say it,
right? His point here is that Victor being alive after all these years is amazing to him,
right?
And it basically fuels what happens later.
And we learned that Tabitha spent the entire night looking at the paintings in the basement. She hasn't gotten any sleep at all. Mm-hmm. She really needs some sleep.
And he keeps insisting on that, but she doesn't want to hear it. She hears jangling, and
that's actually not till... Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah. Henry says it's a bottle tree that Miranda planted a long time ago. And then we go back to Frumville. We see Victor at Counting House counting steps, and I actually missed this scene the first time I watched it.
Yeah, so it's a very quick scene. He's counting steps at the tree line, which is something, we've seen him do plenty of times. But this time he's looking at some notes, and he's looking around to make sure nobody's watching him, and then he starts digging. He digs something up, which we will. We get very little Victor this episode, but it seems like important lead up to what we're going to get from him next.
Yes.
I hope.
So we have Ellis and Boyd talking about his brain-dead scheme to capture a monster. And, okay, so I love this scene for a number of reasons. Every objection that I raised about the whole Boyd wanting to capture a monster thing is raised here.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that the creators are very... you have an issue with Jim. I have lots of issues with Jim that I bring up. But I think the creators are... These issues are intentional. They know these issues. They bring them up. Right. So it's not like if you have an issue with the character, it's odds are that the creators know this.
Right. They want you to.
Yeah.
And this here specifically is, something that the fandom has often wondered that they're talking about. If the talisman can be used to trap a creature in a place instead of out of a place. Right. Which brings back the topic we talked about earlier of what happened in the barn. Yes. Because it didn't trap them in the barn. But it could be because the talisman were inside the barn instead of hanging on the outside of it. Right. If the talisman was on the opposite side of the door, would it have trapped them inside?
Maybe. So, he's thinking he can trap them with a talisman. Ellis thinks this is nuts. Donna enters, and we learn that Kenny and Dale and some others, we will later learn that Jane and Christy are also going to the creepy statues to get food.
Yeah, they drew straws to see who was going to go. Kenny had to go because he knows where it is. Yeah. And they drew straws, and Dale threw a fit, of course, that he was chosen.
Yeah, so Dale's back, and I'm like, I'm not entirely sure why I missed this guy. But,
because he's somebody that you love to hate.
Yeah. Like, I got you.
Like, he's not evil. He's just a pain in the butt.
Yes, an ass. Donna instantly knows something is up because she is no fool. She reads the room, and Donna is she's a hothead. She's a blunt instrument, as I've said several times, but she is a smart cookie.
Right.
She knows how to read the room. And Ellis insists that he tell her. So Boyd shares his plan.
His half plan.
Right, it's not even a plan. And her reaction was exactly mine. I'm sorry, what? She raises every question I had last week, and he wants to make it talk. So trap it and then make it talk. And she's like, how? Are you going to torture it? Like, what are you talking about here? Like, what method are you going to use to torture it?
Right, she reminds him that guns don't affect them.
Right.
And,
do you have some kryptonite somewhere that I don't know about? Because, like, how are you doing this? And so she pokes holes in his ideas. She tells him to work harder. And then Ellis gives her a look like, can you please help me out with this a little bit more, please? So she says, look, we're all upset about Mrs. Wu. She doesn't want to see him go out there and get killed over a half-baked dumbass plan, which is what this is. Mm-hmm. He and tells Ellis not to encourage him. He's got a baby on the way to think about, which is exactly something I said last week, by the way.
Right. Like, why is Ellis even involved in this?
Right. And we're totally not sure that it even is a baby anymore, but
that's a whole other topic.
Right.
As far as he knows, he's got a baby on the way.
Right. So we cut to Clara,
who's cooking a big steak left over from the cow. Poor cow.
Yes, the poor cow that's now dead and meat.
And being eaten.
Fatima declines to eat the meat, but instead goes outside and eats more rotten food. She's caught by Tilly, who sees her from a distance, and Fatima runs.
She literally runs away after she's caught eating rotten vegetables.
Right. So Kenny leads the group to creepy statues. Dale isn't happy to see them. I mean, I wouldn't be either, so I don't really blame him.
Yeah, so we've got Kenny, Christy, Dale, Colony House Resident 1, whose name is Roger, we learn, and Colony House Resident 2, which is a woman whose name we haven't learned yet. Jade
speculates that it might be like the talismans. I'm kind of wondering if this is like gravestones, like indications of where people died.
Oh, maybe. Whatever they are, there's something to them, and the fact that they disrupt them in this episode seems like a bad idea. One person suggested this, and I think this might be interesting, is that the noise Kenny and Jim heard in episode 1, remember they heard something outside?
Yes. Yeah.
They suggested, well, what if that is these totems, like, come alive at night, and they're their own creatures walking around?
Yeah, I mean, we've now seen this location multiple times, so clearly this is going to be a important site.
Right.
So Kenny gives orders and sets up the plan. He's doing a good job being a low leader here. Jim doesn't impress. Oh, okay. So we cut to Jim. He's doing an impression of being a parent.
Yeah, he cooked soup, and he tells them soon they're going to be off of rations because Kenny's coming back with food.
He's feeding Ethan. Julie ends up entering.
She gives him the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
Because that's her job now.
Yeah. Ethan starts talking about who's going to bury Mom, because now he's under the impression that she is dead.
Right. He has come along to the idea that Mom's not coming home. He's no longer trying to run away to look for her.
Now, on the one hand, this seems like the same, this is Ethan being beyond his years, like we usually say. On the other hand, I think I read somewhere that there's a stage as a kid, a developmental stage, where you're kind of matter of fact about death. And I think that's also plausible for why Ethan is acting the way he is here.
He's asking logical questions you'd expect a kid to maybe have, right?
And I'm sorry, Jim, but you need to have a thicker skin than this. So his reasonable, parenting impression that he was trying to make here, it goes away. He just snaps at Ethan and upsets him into the point where he runs away. And
Julie follows him.
Right. Calling him parent of the year, which is he needs to do better than this.
Yeah. Jim has been failing as a parent over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
The phone call from Not Thomas didn't really help him be a better parent.
No. So that was a good impression for about 5 minutes of actually being a parent.
Yeah. And the second the kids walk out of the room, the phone rings.
Jim picks it up and then just angrily hangs it up.
Now, I'm questioning this. The kids were not out of earshot. Do they hear the phone ring?
That is a good point.
Or is Jim the only one who hears it? Is it the sound of the phone ringing literally in his head where they're not hearing it? Yeah. Because they didn't turn around and be like, why is the phone ringing?
Right. Yeah, they were not far enough away to not hear
They had literally just walked out of the room. So I'm thinking that Like, it's not even physically ringing where people in the room can hear it. I think it's only ringing in his head.
Okay. So would that be the same case with the phone call? Well, that was a dream, so never mind.
Yeah, that was a dream the last time the phone rang for somebody.
Yeah, that was for Kenny.
Now, also, with the fact that he picks up and slams it down, like, I understand his frustration after the last call, but I'd still be checking who's on the phone to make sure it's not, like, an actual, like, something helpful.
Right.
Or some information you need.
Yes.
Like, I'd still be humoring the call and saying hello.
I would be too, but Jim does not think rationally or smartly or...
I mean, what if that was Tabitha?
Right, yeah.
What if she found a way to get to you? Now, you wouldn't be able to trust that it was really her, and you'd have a whole new dilemma.
Yes.
But I'd at least want to hear what's happening on that phone.
Actually, come to think of it, why didn't
they pretend to be Tabitha?
Yeah. I mean, that's more plausible than being Thomas.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, if she'd be like, hey, it's me. We're the kids.
But then again, we don't know what this phone person's agenda really is.
And we don't know who it is or what it is or where it is or when it is.
Right.
I mean, for all we know, it is Thomas in some alternate reality.
I mean,
and they're going to turn around and be like, haha, you thought we were kidding.
Right. That'd be interesting. Okay, so we cut back to the real world, we assume.
Yeah, Tabitha and Henry were with.
Yeah. Henry,
and they go out to look at the bottle tree in the yard.
But there's no hole in it. It ends up being the case that this is not the original one. The original one is in some park.
Right.
Now,
So Miranda is an artist.
Yeah.
She built the one in the park as an art installation, and she loved it so much that she made a replica in their own yard, and that's what they're next to now.
So she demands that she be taken to the tree in the park, which is 30 to 40 minutes away.
Yep.
Let me ask you a question here. What is Tabitha trying to do here?
I mean, she's trying to get answers.
Right.
First and foremost. I don't think she knows what answer she's looking for. She's following clues.
Okay. So I was kind of under the impression that maybe she was trying to get back to Frumville.
I mean, she wants to get back, but also when she gets back, she's upset that she gets back.
Right. That's exactly my point.
Right.
It seems like she's trying to get back there, but then she acts like she's upset. So my question is, she's just following clues and she doesn't really know what she's doing with the bottle tree?
I think so.
Okay.
I think she wants to see it if it's a faraway tree.
Or it's actually quite possible that she's upset that the other people are with her.
Maybe.
Because she wanted to
But also remember, in that moment, she's come to the conclusion that it's fake.
And
at this point,
yeah,
she still thinks, oh, this is very real. I'm in Maine, and I'm sent here to find Victor's dad, and she thinks that it's all part of... She thinks if she goes back, she can save her family.
Right.
Because she knows how to get out now.
Right.
But by the end of the episode, she doesn't think she was ever really out. So is that helpful?
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I guess we'll have to follow up on this next episode.
But yeah, he says that the original bottle tree, the one in the park, is where they dropped acid the day that Miranda started having the visions. And that's where it all started. That's where all this started. It's when she started seeing the kids and got her call to From. Mm-hmm. So Tabitha's like, well, we have to go there. And, I get it. Like, it's a lead.
Yeah.
I mean, if she gets there and it is a faraway tree, should she walk in it? I don't know. Maybe you should keep investigating before you do that. That's
a debate.
And maybe before you do that, you should bring some supplies with you.
Yeah, like some food. Yeah, definitely. So, cut back to Frumville. Boyd is making a memorial. He gets visited by the entity known as Katri. We don't know what this is exactly. Who gives him crap for his plan to try to capture the monster.
Yeah, and Katri thinks that what he's doing, the wood that he's working on, has something to do with catching the creature.
Right.
And this made me think, like, this isn't just a reflection of Boyd's own thoughts. So that's been one theory, that it's literally just his own thoughts reflecting back to him in an hallucination.
So this makes you think that this is not just a hallucination, but...
I mean, it's a hallucination, but I don't think it's coming from within his head. I still think it's projected to him from some other force.
And a force that doesn't know.
I mean, it's a hallucination as far as nobody else can see him, and there's not really somebody there.
But this entity doesn't know what Boyd is up to.
Exactly. I think that's what we're giving here is... Katri doesn't know what he's doing, and he says, oh, is that part of your plan to catch the monster? And he seemed a little taken aback when Boyd explains he's making a memorial board.
Right.
So I feel like this is kind of saying, like, yeah, no, Katri definitely is more than just Boyd.
But not necessarily the same force that's in control of everything else either, because
Right.
the other force seems to know everything.
I'm really under the impression that whatever Abby is different than whatever Khatri and Tom are.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I think I made that point last season that was definitely a different force than whatever is controlling or a part of Khatri.
And I don't
Tom.
think the Khatri entity has bad intentions.
Yeah.
I feel like whatever the Khatri entity is, and probably Tom,
Yes.
are on like a helpful side of things.
I wasn't sure last episode if Khatri was trying to be helpful or harmful. But this episode seems to indicate, I mean, based on Khatri's behavior here, that he's trying to be helpful.
Right.
Because he's trying to talk him out of this stupid plan to capture
Right.
the monster.
Right.
But, yeah.
But the Abby entity clearly was trying to be deceitful.
Yeah, basically, Abby in the season
210.
finale was basically like, yeah, you guys should just give up and die.
Right.
So, no, I don't think that was trying to be helpful.
Yeah. I feel like we could be dealing with opposing forces within the entities.
I've said that
within the vision entities.
Yeah,
you know?
I've said that
like the
all
same
along,
way
yeah.
we had, and I hate to keep comparing it to Lost, but you know the same way we had the Man in Black and Jacob,
Right.
who are opposing sides of the same coin.
Right. All right.
One other thing that Khatri mentioned here that threw me off a little bit is he says, "Boyd, you've been here about 1.5 years now." Now that breaks the timeline a little bit for me, because based on the missing posters, which has always fit so far, Boyd's been missing since November 15th, 2019, and it's now March 2022. So that's more like 2.5 years.
Well, maybe Khatri just isn't very good with math.
Yeah, so I don't know. Is this evidence that those dates aren't necessarily
Canon?
I mean, they're not canon because they weren't set in the show, but everything we've learned about the timeline supported those dates previously.
Right. So, let me ask you, because I'm the way the show moves, I'm actually kind of confused. How long has this series been going on for?
2 to
timeline.
3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks.
Like we're entering week 3, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so
or we're like in week 3.
Everything that's been going on for the entire series from the time the Matthews got there, 3 weeks.
So the Matthews got there February 20th, which was the day the series started. That's the day on their missing poster. And we know Fatima's 1-year anniversary based on the date on her missing poster. Again, those are the dates we're kind of using because that's what we have, was February 28th. Which would say that the Colony House Massacre, which was her party, was 8 days later. And that seems to track, right?
Okay.
And if you go from there, the bus would have showed up like a day or two later.
Yeah.
And season 2 took place over just a couple days. Remember, they didn't sleep the whole time.
Basically.
It's been only a few days, season 2.
Okay.
Like, we were watching them almost like in 24 mode, you know?
Right, yeah.
Where we're staying with them. We had a couple of nights. Every night people are dying or going through this stuff. So, and I'd have to rewatch to know specifically, but I feel like it was maybe 3 days, season 2. Like, not a lot of time passed at all.
Right, no.
And then we had a 3-day time jump to start season 3, which we were told in 301. So it's been, like 2.5, maybe 3 weeks at this point. We're still in early March.
Yeah, which is kind of unusual for a television series to move that slow.
Right.
I meant in the past, like a season would equal 1 year.
Yeah,
and
sometimes.
that's been broken, like in recent times in modern television. But even series that don't go by that definitely have longer time frames.
Well, even Lost didn't follow that.
Yeah,
like the first 3 or 4 seasons of Lost took place over like 3 or 4 months.
Right.
So like each season was like a month in Lost.
Gotcha.
So.
All right, so moving ahead.
Sarah.
Yes, she's trying to put her broken statue together that Kenny broke
the
last
Christmas
season.
ornaments, which is again an example of how little time has passed.
Yes.
Like that got broken in what, like 2-3, 2-4, like somewhere early in the season or near the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And she's just now going to glue it back together. Like it's only been a few days since that happened.
There's a knock at the door, and it's Victor.
Holding a suitcase.
Yep.
Which is what he must have dug up from the yard.
She's really confused by his presence.
I am too.
Yeah, so I was kind of wondering, like, why is he visiting Sarah of all people? And he says he wants to make a fort to tell a story.
Yeah, so he's like, you got a bedspread, let's make a fort, I'm going to tell you a story. And this is the last we see Victor and Sarah in this episode. We don't get to see this. I really hope we get to this very quickly in episode 4 because I'm dying to see what. This is the scene I'm most like anxious to hear right now because what's in the suitcase, and specifically, why are you bringing it to Sarah of all people? Why is she the person you want to tell this to?
Right.
Like there has to be a specific reason why he's going to Sarah.
Yeah.
And not, you know,
Jade,
like Julie and Ethan,
right?
Or Donna. You know, he trusts Donna. He's been living with her for 3 years,
right?
She's like his house mom.
And you know, Jade's always up to listening to him, although he's not around right now. But
yeah, but it's like, why Sarah of all people?
Yeah,
it's very strange to me, and I cannot wait to find out what is in that suitcase. What is he going to tell? Because he's going to tell us something. Show us something. Give us something that we're not expecting. That's going to blow up something.
Right.
I mean, the last time he had a big revelation was the fact that he had a sister.
Right.
So what now did he remember, or is he ready to share?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an old suitcase. It's been buried a long time.
Yeah, so it should be interesting to see what that's all about.
I can't wait.
So Tilly knocks on Batima's door. Batima tries to get rid of her, but Tilly tries to comfort her by saying she used to eat eggshells.
She used to specifically lick the inside of eggshells when she was pregnant. She said it started in her second trimester and only lasted 3 weeks. But her point is, whatever you're going through, it's normal and it'll pass.
Batima opens the door, and she doesn't miss a beat telling her story, by the way. She continues telling the story like that door's been open the entire time.
Yeah.
Fatima cries. Tilly comforts her. She can't tell Ellis how scared she is because Ellis is really happy about this, though at this point I'm pretty sure that Ellis is pretty concerned about Fatima.
Right.
And she's wondering if something's wrong with her baby. Tilly offers to help. And then we cut to Henry and Tabitha. They begin their little adventure. A song plays. It's the same song that played when Jim and Tabitha met. And it also happened to be Miranda's favorite song.
Yeah, and this is the song Blue by Joni Mitchell, which we heard playing in the diner in season 1. And she reacts to this, and she's like confused, right? She's like, oh, that's our song. And he's like, oh, it's a small world. But also, whenever he gets in the car, he says the song just starts playing because the tape's stuck in the tape player. But it kind of sounds an awful lot like the jukebox that just starts playing music randomly also.
Right, yeah. So we cut to Dale, who's bitching, which is perfectly on brand for him. He's giving Jade crap for not helping, to the point that Jade basically tells him to shut the hell up.
Jade's sitting in a corner getting drunk and going through his book of symbols.
Right. So eventually Jade walks on off, and Dale calls him an asshole. That's, a kettle calling kettle black.
Yeah, and he does that through this whole, like, all of his scenes in here. He's just complaining about how unhelpful and ungrateful Jade is. And it's really hilarious, because I don't think he realizes how much of an ass he is.
So Jade walks away, and ladies and gentlemen, we have actual evidence of someone going to the bathroom.
I know! Everybody's always like, well, we don't watch them shower, we don't watch them pee, like, why would you? And I saw it in episodes 1 and 2, like, we got to watch Fatima puke.
Right.
This time we literally get to watch him pee. We see the snow turning yellow at the stream of pee.
So here is your
They're
evidence.
Listening to you guys, folks. This is what you wanted.
Right, yes. Are you guys happy now? Like, literally, sometimes, I love the fandom, obviously. I love the show. The fandom can be ridiculous sometimes.
I love that I feel like they're intentionally doing some of this shit to appease stupid things the fandom has said.
Yeah. All right, so Jade ends up brushing snow off a redstone. There's a couple of them around.
Yeah, there's these really big rocks, and I was wondering, is that supposed to be paint or is that supposed to be blood?
I'm not really sure.
Like, I feel like this is a sacrificial, like, stone circle.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's something, that's for sure.
He's creeped out by it, for sure.
Yeah. And then he notices a figure nearby, a person with a spike through his eye, very much like Kelly.
Yeah, except it goes through his eye, not through forehead.
Yeah.
But yes, he is tethered to the tree just like Kelly was. It's a railroad spike going through his eyeball. And this is the man that we have seen in the trailer already. Dressed in colonial clothing, very, very old looking. And he grabs Jade.
Yep. And then as he's being attacked, Dale stumbles upon him and sees nothing. This is not going on for him.
Yeah, Jade's alone.
And Jade stops seeing the hallucination, and then, or if it's even a hallucination.
Whatever he's seeing. It's the same as like the Civil War soldiers he saw. He's seeing stuff that's not really there for anyone else. Is he seeing a different time period, a different realm? I mean, he's seeing people from out of time, clearly,
right.
But what are they?
Yes.
And why is he seeing them?
And basically Jade's like, fuck this, and he runs off. Christy and Kenny, she tries to talk to him about his mother's death, and he just starts playing hard-ass, like, hey, where's your sack? Why aren't you filling it with food?
Do your job. We're here to collect food.
Right.
We got 2 hours of sunlight left.
He doesn't want to talk about this.
He's clipping blueberries.
Right.
And she's basically like, the only reason I'm here is for you. And he's like, well, that's not what we're here for.
Right. Yeah, we're here to work. If you have time to lean, you have time to clean. But anyway, Jade, in a panic, basically comes back, wants to go back to town. Everybody's arguing.
Dale's following him like a little puppy dog.
Yeah, why does he care so much?
Well, I think he doesn't want him to get off not helping, is what it comes down to.
Oh, okay. So Dale's purely motivated by spite and pettiness?
I think so.
Okay. So,
he's
Jade,
like, I don't want to be here.
Right.
And he knows this place is bad news.
And Dale's like, well, who does? Like, who wants to be in any of this? But, so, Jade runs off. Kenny tells him just let him go. Maybe he's right. He'll get back to the tree with the
talisman hut is his goal. He's going to get to the talisman hut before sunset. Because apparently they brought 2 talismans and Jade's just taking one of them and leaving.
I guess so.
When the plan is, for all of them to stay in these cabins tonight. Because, like, it's a whole day, like, back, right?
Right.
So they're spending the night here and then going back in the morning with the food is the plan.
So Christy yells after him saying he's going in the wrong way. And then she ends up getting caught in a bear trap. Everyone runs to her aid. Kenny ends up, pushing Jade off. Who's
Kenny
trying to help.
is physically like fighting with Jade, and she's just screaming like that's not helpful right now.
Right. They can't get the thing off, and then we cut to Ethan, who is cleaning at the diner with Bacta. Boyd shows up, and Ethan says he's putting things back the way Mrs. Wu would like some things. Bacta came down there when Ethan goes into the kitchen part, and Bacta says that she came down there for a big pop for Colony House and found him cleaning. He asks how she is doing, and she says she doesn't know because she's had these weird random
and she's been missing for 2 episodes.
Right? Yeah. How do you feel about that, Bacta?
She says she's still trying to process everything, including how a nursery rhyme that her grandma told her is somehow involved in this. And I think the fact that they reminded us of that is important.
Right.
They're telling us the fact that she knew this wasn't just some throwaway line.
Well, it's to indicate our podcast, which now has that nursery rhyme as our theme.
They're reminding us that she knew this from her grandmother.
Right.
So there's got to be something to that.
Right.
There's got to be more to her story. It wasn't just like her randomly saying like, oh yeah, that's a thing. I know that. Now,
it's interesting. I don't recall Boyd and Bacta interacting all that much last season. But they act like they have this kind of deep relationship.
Well, remember, the bus people have only been here a handful of days, like less than a week, I think, or maybe just about a week once we had the 3-day time jump here. So, like, none of them know each other very well.
Right. She says that, she asked Boyd, is it always like this, or does it get worse? He says, it doesn't, it doesn't matter, that they're going to win and find a way home. And, every time he says this, it sounds less and less convincing.
Right.
But Ethan comes out and asks, what if there isn't a way home? And, Boyd insists that there is, and he says, you don't know that. Like, you could just want there to be a way home. Maybe there isn't.
And he says they should give up on his mom.
Yeah, he says, we haven't given up on your mom. And Ethan says, well, maybe you should. And then he goes back into the kitchen.
Yeah, Ethan again being the grown-up.
Right. So they are continuing to try and get... Oh, we cut back to Kenny and Christy and all them. They are continuing to try to get Christy out of the trap, but are getting nowhere. They are all arguing. Kenny is angry at Jade. Jade and Dale snipe at each other.
They try using a stick as a lever, but it breaks. I saw that coming.
Yes, of course. So Jade has an idea, and for some reason he brings Dale along, and I don't know why, because it's not like Dale helps at all.
Yeah, he just needed a scene with them together.
Okay. So
maybe they're going to end up cursed together because they're the ones doing this.
Or maybe this is the beginning of a love story between Jade and Dale.
Do you think Dale might actually end up being helpful at some point?
I doubt it, but you never know. So they get nowhere. Okay, I read that. So we cut to Tilly.
Yeah, we're cutting around a lot in this episode.
She finds some tarot cards.
They're hers. She
Yeah.
remembered where she put them, tarot cards. And it's interesting because there's definitely a fan theory about tarot cards, like
Yes.
a big fan theory that the whole thing's about tarot cards. And again, I feel like maybe this is just the creators nodding to like, hey, we're listening to you guys. We're paying attention.
Right.
I don't think these tarot cards mean anything, but I guarantee you certain people are going to be like, see, I told you, it's all about tarot cards.
And we see a sleeping Elgin. This is where my note is he ever going to do anything this season?
Yeah, he's finally getting some rest,
Yeah.
Tilly notices.
Yeah, he has the most thankless role this season so far. I hope he gets something to do.
Eventually, I'm sure he will.
Right.
So Fatima sees the cards and she gets upset. And she's mad that Tilly's making a joke about her concern for her baby. And she says she's doing the kooky baddie Tilly shtick.
Which again, is like the creators basically mirroring what we say about Tilly.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tilly says it's not a joke. She takes this very seriously. And then finally, Fatima agrees to sit down with her and hear her out.
And so the question that she ends up asking, which she's supposed to ask, is the baby going to be okay? I think that's the wrong question. I think the question should be, what is this baby?
I mean, she doesn't suspect that it's not a baby.
Well, how does she not? She's eating rotten vegetables.
Because she's not watching the show.
Okay.
She doesn't know she's in a horror series.
Okay, I got you.
So Tilly got the cards from a woman named Gertie. And I bring up all these little details like this because at this point you have no idea what's going to be important.
Right.
Gertie might be somebody that has something to do with Fromville for all we know.
Right.
So I'm going to make note of this name. A woman named Gertie gave it to her, and she was in the same hospice as her husband. And she did a reading for her after her husband died. And Tilly noticed that if she was paying attention to the cards, they told her about her cancer, and they told her about this place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the cards predicted that all this was going to happen to her. And if she saw the signs, she would have known how to read them, but now she knows she's better at reading them now.
So she starts to try, and then a crow crashes into the window. It basically flies into the window. It doesn't. And then she tries again, and this time a crow goes straight through the window, flies around.
Breaks the glass, flies around Colony House. The commotion wakes Elgin up.
Yeah, you woke up Elgin from his beauty sleep.
And the bird finally falls, bloodied, dead. Bad news. I bet Elgin just thinks this is another dream.
I'm sure he does. I saw a poster saying that Tilly being in Elgin's dream in episode 1 of this season was a sign that she was sus. I'm off the Tilly being sus train. All of last season.
Now you think she's an innocent old lady?
Yeah. All of last season I was like, okay, this is really weird and suspect. I don't really believe that anymore, and I especially don't buy her being in a dream means anything other than the fact that they hang out in the real world.
He's teaching her how to knit.
This person, I responded to this person, said, I don't think this means anything. And he said, oh, you'll see what happens. So I'm assuming that this person has screeners, so they knew what this was going to happen. I still do not believe that this means anything in regards to Tilly being sus. So I'm just laying that out there.
Well, I do know that a bird in the house is a symbol of death.
Ooh.
I know that one.
Okay.
I don't know much about tarot cards and all of those details, but I know a bird in the house is bad news.
Well, not to mention the seal is broken, so now they have to patch up that window.
Sure. But they, every window in Colony House at this point, it should be boards.
Yeah.
But I think somebody in Colony House is going to die soon because of this is a symbol of death coming to the house.
All right.
And the fact that Tilly was about to do the reading and then the bird thing happened, I feel like something didn't want her doing the reading.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it was stopping her from saying something it didn't want her to say.
Right. Yeah, probably.
Like the force, the entity put that bird through the window specifically so she couldn't do this reading.
Yes, I think that's the case. I
And
absolutely
that's
agree with that.
interesting. Like, what were these cards about to tell her? That her baby is the devil?
That her baby, she's giving birth to one of the monsters, maybe Smiley.
I mean, I made that joke before. She's going to give birth to Jamie Maguire.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure we've made that joke like every podcast so far now.
Back to Dale and Jade, they go to the totems, and there's metal rods in them that Jade takes.
Yeah, and Dale's like, are you sure you want to do that with these things?
I feel like in their situation, this was a really smart idea. You
absolutely.
found something metal. That's what you needed to act as a lever to get the bear trap off.
Yeah, but
it was also a really terrible idea to disturb these totems.
So, Jade brought Dale with him to do absolutely nothing.
To give the line. This is why Dale's there, because he gives us his line. He says, you really want to start pulling apart the ancient tower of holy scary shit?
And it's a good line, by the way.
It's a good line, and it's, like, where we're at, is that a good idea?
And, by the way, we give Dale plenty of shit, especially this episode, but, Cliff Sanders.
I'm not going to say especially this episode. Every appearance of Dale.
Okay. But I really love Cliff Sanders' delivery of this line that he has to give.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
And, Jade says whoever built it won't mind. Are you sure about that?
Yeah. I'm not totally convinced of that. But anyway, they go back to Chrissy. They get her out of the trap.
Chrissy's trying to say goodbye to Kenny.
Oh,
she's
yeah. I skipped over that.
If this goes bad, and she wants to tell him no matter what, you never will be alone.
What does she mean by that exactly?
Like, you have friends, and you're lean on people. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to hear any of it.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to, like, think that she's not going to make it.
Right, but she's kind of like, the sun's about to go down, and...
Right, yeah. So, Jade, they come back, they get her out, and then she has to talk them into setting the bone. This entire thing is pretty unpleasant to watch. Jade sees the ghostly figure drinking blood from a skull.
Yeah,
or something.
and this is the clip from the trailer. So he's off of the tree now, but he has a bloody eye where the spike was. He's got a skull full of blood that he's drinking, and Jade's supposed to be like helping with her leg, and he's totally distracted by this to the point where Christy has to yell at him to focus. And he's, as usual, seeing some pretty creepy crap.
Yeah, I don't envy him. So they fix this, and then we cut to Randall.
And then they start carrying her back to the cabins.
We cut to Randall on the bus. He sees a cicada. All right, what does that mean exactly? Is that just PTSD from that situation? So he
sees one cicada on the outside of the glass and touches the window and it goes away. I think that cicada was real. I think, yes, there was a bug on the glass. Okay. But I think that prompted what happens next, which is he's suddenly attacked by a whole swarm of them, which aren't really there.
Is this just like I said, is it PTSD or is it the town fucking with him?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Is he having a vision of cicadas?
Right. Yeah.
Or is it in his head? I mean, that can be said about literally every scene with every character.
Right.
That something weird's happening to.
So he's visited by Boyd, and
the cicadas aren't really there.
Right.
Boyd's like, you okay?
Yeah, and Randall's like, so what the fuck do you want? Okay, so Randall is never going to be the guy who's going to be like, hey, buddy, how you doing? He's not a pleasant guy to, be around, but I think that... My opinion of him from last season has definitely changed, and not by much. Not much has happened with his character to really change my mind this season. Yeah. But I just feel differently about him so far this season than I did last season, where I just thought, oh, he's an ass. He's just, he's not the guy that you're gonna go to and be like, hey, how you doing? Right. He's gonna be like, what the fuck do you want? Like he's a hard edge type of guy. So Boyd wants to trade places with him. Boyd is going to sleep on the bus, and Randall is going to go sleep in the police station, or that's at least what Boyd is proposing here.
Right, because he says he wants to see what their friends do when they come out of the woods tonight. Like, didn't we already do that? Didn't we do that with sleeping in the RV at night? Like, wasn't that the whole plot of that? And it didn't work.
I'm not so sure, because that was a very weird and different situation. Yeah.
But that was their premise when they started. It was like, we're going to watch them and see what they do. Right. Is Boyd actually going to try trapping them on the bus?
I don't know what Boyd is thinking here. Maybe he's just talking about doing some recon to see how they behave. Maybe he's trying to take Donna's words to heart and approach this in a smart way. We don't get anything else with this in this episode.
I think Randall's going to insist on staying with him.
That would make sense, and it would seem like a very Randall thing to do. Yeah. I think he's all for helping if he thinks it might help him to get out. Right. Eventually. So we see Henry and Tabitha.
And she's feeling car sick.
Yes. And then she opens up.
He tells her there's crackers in the glove box.
Oh, yes.
So she goes to get the crackers to help with her motion sickness.
And then she sees a bracelet. And the bracelet starts... she just starts going to shit. Because this is the same bracelet that she...
It's her bracelet.
Right.
Which I have a lot of notes about that, like at the end. I want to talk about the bracelet.
Okay, so...
To remember where we're at with the bracelet. But in this moment, she says, what's this? And he says that Miranda made it for him. That's Henry's story about the bracelet. And suddenly she realizes, she goes, I'm stupid. None of this can be real. And she goes over all of the coincidences that brought her to this moment. She tells him that the bracelet was his mistake. So she's blaming him now.
Right.
Basically like, you're a liar. You're not real. You're in on this, whatever this is.
Right.
And this is where you messed up because I made this bracelet for my husband. And then I found it in the diner. And she's like, we're not really in Camden Made. She thinks she's being tortured. She wants to get out of the car. She asks what happens when she gets out of the car. Is she going to wake up in the hospital again? Will it all start over? So she's done a complete 180. She's no longer hopeful and feels like she's making progress. She feels like she's been bamboozled this entire time that she's been in Maine. And that she doesn't trust him and she doesn't trust anything that's happened. And she feels stupid for believing it.
And basically, Henry is just confused by this.
He genuinely looks confused. And he's like, the park's just down the street. Hang on. And he won't let her out of the car. He's like, you can't do this to me. You can't tell me my son's alive and then just walk away.
Right. So he's holding the door shut, and then he starts driving the car desperately, and they end up getting hit. They end up in an ambulance. He's unconscious with the cop.
Yeah, he's strapped on a board.
There's the cop played by Samantha Brown.
EMT2 is caring for him. That's Caleb McDonald.
Yep, and then there's a driver.
Tabitha wakes up. Acosta tells her not to sit up. So in this moment, I realized we're in an ambulance with Acosta, and this is when I realized, like, oh shit. Acosta getting there with an ambulance, which we knew was happening, is the same thing as Tabitha and Henry getting there.
Right.
Which I also suspected was happening.
Right.
But I didn't think it was happening so soon.
Yes.
And I definitely didn't suspect all these things were happening in the same occurrence.
Right.
And as soon as I saw Acosta, I was like, oh my God, we're going right now.
And then the driver says, hey, there's a tree down. And that's when I went, oh shit.
As soon as we saw Acosta, I realized, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the ambulance that goes to From in the trailer. And I kind of wish they didn't show us all of this from the trailer. Because now I know, they're all going back there.
Yeah.
If we hadn't seen the scenes from the trailer and we saw this scene, I'd be questioning right now, are they going to end up in the same From?
Right.
Are they going to be in the same village or, the same town or a different time in the town? Are there going to be different people there?
Right.
But no, now we know they're literally just going back to From.
So, Henry, Fatima, and Acosta, I'm assuming, are all safe.
You mean Henry, Tabitha, and Acosta.
What did I just say?
You said Fatima.
That's what I meant to say. Okay. So, yeah.
So Henry and Acosta are both new characters to the main cast. Now, they could totally flip it and kill him, and he was only main cast for 3 episodes. They could do that.
That would be awful. There has to be a reunion with Victor.
There has to be.
The other two, I'm pretty convinced are dead as of next
They're
episode.
not main characters.
Right.
That doesn't mean, though, that they're dying right away. They could be recurring characters, like our Colony House residents, our Clara, our Dale.
If not them, then other people are going to die next episode.
Definitely one of the EMTs is dead on the ground in the trailer.
Okay.
We see a body in a white shirt laying on the ground, clearly looking dead.
Yeah. Because, when people show up to Prumville, people
There's a
die.
good chance both EMTs die in the next episode. But there's also a chance at least one of them hangs out a little while.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, I'm certainly rooting for Caleb McDonald to stay on the
Sure.
show.
I want to see more of him, and I want him to interact. It'd be great if he lasts a little longer than Kelly did.
Yes. Yes, it would be nice. Yeah.
Okay, so the points I have here is she wants to go back, but now she's saying no. We talked about that already.
Again, I
in
think...
this moment's not happy that the tree's down.
I don't think she wanted to take these spectators with her. She wanted to go back herself, maybe with Henry. I don't think... And you know what's funny? I think Henry might be the first person to end up in Frumville that actually wants to be there.
Yeah.
That is actually happy to be there.
Because he wants to reunite with his son.
Yes.
Now, I'm super curious what that interaction is going to look like.
I'm imagining that...
What's Victor going to say? Is he going to remember his dad? Because he has never mentioned his father, not once.
Even if he does, I don't think he's going to react to his father being there well. I think that's going to go very badly, at least at the start. I think he's going to be very skeptical of his father. I also think there's a possibility that he's going to be really upset that his father is now stuck here. Because I'm sure he doesn't want that.
So what do we think happens next for Tabitha's journey? So once we deal with, like, we know that Amethyst is coming at night and there's going to be creatures, and we got to deal with that scene from the trailer. Once we get past that, Tabitha's going to reunite with her family. Does she march everyone to the lighthouse? Are we going to the lighthouse so we can all jump off and escape? Well, or does she not trust that anymore because she thinks it's fake?
I'm not sure, but obviously they're not all going to the march to the lighthouse. And if they do, it's not going to work.
Maybe they can't find the lighthouse again.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think she's here for a specific reason, and I think she thinks that specific reason is going to be what gets them all home, which is to...
Save the children.
Well, you can't even save the children because they're already dead.
Well,
but
find out what happened to the children.
Right. Rescue them from their current situation and let them move on to the afterlife or whatever. They're trapped somewhere.
I mean, maybe she could save them. There could still be something timey-wimey happening here.
Maybe. You never know.
So why did she get sent back now? Why is this happening? Why was the car accident?
Why is the car accident?
That, put her in this ambulance. Did something not want her to give up, right? She was about to give up and not go to the bottle tree. So is that why, boom, there's an accident and they're sending her here against her will? Because she was giving up?
I'm not sure.
Or is it because they didn't want her to keep contemplating that it's fake?
Right.
And they are like, well, let's send you back.
Well, I'm assuming that whatever...
was whatever that's making her go back not want her to get to the bottle tree. Henry was going to make her get to the bottle tree. This force showed her the bracelet to keep her from wanting to go.
Then why not just take her back in the first place? Why not? Oh, because it's the first time that... No, well, then I'm not sure.
We don't know anything right now.
Right, yeah.
Because we don't know what was going to happen if she got to the park. And it feels like there's forces at play here. We just don't know what they're trying to do.
Right.
I mean, never mind if they're good or evil. We don't know what their goals are. But clearly it's not a coincidence that now she's back that she was in a car accident and goes on an ambulance and is being brought back.
Maybe the other people need to be with her in order for Henry and her to survive. Because, you go to Frumville... People die.
Somebody has to die.
Yes. So I'm thinking that perhaps the forces at work want Fatima and... Well, not Fatima. I keep saying that. Tabitha and Henry to be okay. And I guess Samantha too, because she's main cast. And that there has to be some cannon fodder.
Acosta.
Yes.
The actress is Samantha Brown, but we don't know Acosta's first name.
That there has to be people that die. And so that she went back with other people so that these people die and they are okay.
And I said this already. I believe Henry. Yeah. He seems true-hearted. I don't think that he's fake. I don't think he's tricking her. I don't think he's evil. I believe his story.
Okay. Are you suspicious of Acosta?
I mean, we don't know anything about her yet.
Right.
So I don't have any opinions on her. But he really believes all of this. Like, this is his life. This is his story. So whatever's been happening in Camden, it's real for him. And if that world's fake, I think he's been living in a fake world too.
Or perhaps he's a simulation that thinks he's real.
That could be said of any of the people. Literally none of these people could be real. Right. I mean, this could be like an identity situation.
See, I don't want that. I kind of want to play this at face value. I want this to really be Victor's father.
Yeah.
So that they can have their reunion and, the dramaticness of that. So I kind of want to take Henry completely at face value.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I believe him. But what does that mean about this world that Tabitha was just in?
Right.
Like, was it all real? And it's just these little tiny elements are pushing her.
Well, now we're back in Frumville, so how would we even know?
Right.
If that
Like,
was
what
real or
was
not?
any of that except
Right.
to give her reason to doubt everything?
Now, let me ask you a question. Did they do enough with Tabitha's journey to justify its
I'm
existence?
so confused that we're going back already. Like, yeah, what's going on? I feel like I wasn't ready for her to go back.
Right.
Like, I wanted more scenes in Camden and more answers and more information that we're
Because-
not getting.
Because it seems like she went back and learned.
She
what
went
already
back
knew.
to just collect Henry
I mean,
and
basically,
Acosta
and there is no reason for that because they could have just shown up.
on their own.
Yeah, unless I don't know. But like, so she found out that
She learned the story of Miranda.
Yeah.
And see her where she was with the things. But yeah, if Henry showed up on his own, they could have learned all this there.
So is this it?
It was to give us
Yeah.
a look at the real world,
Right.
if that's what it is.
Okay.
And it was to make us question, is this real or not?
So my basic question is, from a creative standpoint, did they do enough to justify Tabitha going to the real world and now coming back? Was that enough?
I don't know. I guess it depends where they're going next.
I guess. Okay.
And what she does with the information she got there. Like,
Yeah.
are we just going to, like, wash it away and, like, oh, she's back?
Right.
Or are we going to keep touching upon, like, the stuff that happened there?
I mean, we kind of have to, really, when it comes down to it. All right. You have anything else to
I
say?
do.
Another hour of
No,
podcasting?
just a couple more points. I want to talk about the parallels between the Kavanaugh family
Okay.
and the Matthews family. Because there seems to be some very strong parallels here. Like, more than coincidental. And this is, of course, Victor's family and Tabitha's family. Both parents, a son and a daughter. They have the same song.
Yes.
The bracelet is the big one.
Yes.
In both cases, the wife made the bracelet for the husband. It just feels like it's like her family's representing Victor's whole family. Like, we already had the idea, right, that Ethan is the replacement for Victor.
Yes.
And I don't know where I'm going with this, but it just feels like there's so many things connecting these two families. With the biggest difference being the dad didn't go there for the Kavanaugh family, but the dad is there for, for the Matthews family. But other than that, like, they kind of have a similar journey, right? And it's been kind of suggested from the beginning, well, maybe everyone dies except Ethan, and he's the new Victor.
Right.
But the fact that the bracelet is like, oh, if you both made this bracelet, like, what does that mean? And, of course, I got to talk about the bracelet a little bit because, I've been obsessed with this bracelet.
Yes, absolutely.
The whole time.
I knew this conversation was coming.
So let's assume that she's wrong and the bracelet isn't just something to make her realize this is fake, right? We're going to assume Henry's real, the bracelet's, his story's real. His wife made this bracelet for him, okay?
Okay.
So that means that it makes the bootstrap paradox that is the bracelet even worse than it was before.
Okay.
Because now we have 4 different instances of this bracelet existing now.
Yeah.
Number one being that it was made for Henry by Miranda in the 70s.
Okay.
That's the first instance, the one that's in his glove box.
Yes.
And he still has it. Also, she still has it because she's wearing it, Miranda that is wearing it in Frumville in the 70s.
Oh, that is weird.
So the one she made for her husband, he has and she has. Unless, and I just thought of this, maybe she made 2 almost identical.
Okay. Did she end up with it in Frumville?
She's wearing it when she's talking to Victor and Eloise.
So that kind of...
Which is how we noticed, like, oh, she's wearing Jim's bracelet. How is that possible?
Which, yeah, wow.
So she's got it and her husband has it. Unless
Okay.
she made them matching bracelets. I guess that could be.
It's
because
funny
Tabitha didn't necessarily identify that the bracelet Miranda was wearing was her exact bracelet.
It's interesting because there was a lot of conversation noticing that bracelet
Right.
on Miranda and whether it was the same one or not. And I think there was conversation that it was just a coincidence. Or
It definitely wasn't a coincidence.
not anymore. This confirms
the,
it means something.
The third instance is that Tabitha made it for Jim out of his father's bootlaces in the early 2000s when they started dating.
Okay.
And then he lost it when Julie was born.
And it somehow ended up in the 1970s.
And then the fourth instance is she found it in the diner.
So this...
And she's confirmed it is the one she made. It's got the same error on it.
Does the brace... Do they still have the bracelet?
Jim's wearing the bracelet.
I mean, does the bracelet they found in the glove compartment, that Tabitha found, do they hang on to that?
I don't know, because they were in a car accident.
Right, yeah.
It might be in her hand or in her pocket.
It could
or
still be in the car.
It might not be.
Right, okay.
We don't know.
Mm.
So, 4 instances. The
Okay.
one Henry has, the one Miranda has in Fromville in the 70s, the one Tabitha made for Jim, and then finding it again in the diner in for 16 years later, Julie's 16. So, it's possible that, like, 2 of them are the same. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe, like, the one Tabitha's wearing and the one they found in the diner's the same. Right? Because Victor took it off his mom's body and it ended up in storage. That's possible.
Okay.
Or it's possible that the one Miranda was wearing was different than the one her husband made because she made 2 of them, right? But either way, the fact that they both made them means that can't exist. This doesn't make sense.
Well, maybe Miranda made it because she saw it in a vision. Because she saw...
The Tabitha's.
Tabitha version.
Now,
in her mind.
We didn't specifically get Tabitha saying when she looked at Henry's bracelet, look, there's the error I made.
Yeah.
But she was looking it up and down. She was flipping it around. She was really checking it out. And then she became convinced this is fake. So I think that she is convinced that's the exact same bracelet yet again.
Perhaps it doesn't have the flaw.
And I think it does. Otherwise, she wouldn't have freaked out and said, this is the bracelet I made my husband.
Okay.
Because that was her thing that, like, made her be like, I'm stupid. This is all fake. This can't happen.
Right.
So how does this bracelet exist in so many places?
I don't know.
And there has to be something timey-wimey, super travel.
Didn't you, like, bring it up?
Has to be.
You brought that up in one of the podcasts recently about this bracelet.
I bring it up every time because
and now,
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah.
Something about this bracelet. And here we are. The bracelet's important again.
Yay.
We're confirming it has something to do with Miranda.
Yep.
But what does it mean?
I don't know.
How does it get from all these places, and how are they going to connect these different timelines and explain the existence of this bracelet?
I guess we're going to have to wait and find out.
And they better explain it. They better.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Right.
I need an explanation that makes sense of how it's in all these different places at once.
Okay.
And I'm excited that I think it still indicates something timey-wimey somewhere.
Yeah.
Some kind of wormhole, something. A faraway tree sends it through time. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm really confused. How do you explain 2 different people made it? That's not even... that's like the actual origin story. Time travel doesn't explain that.
The only thing that would explain it to me is that Miranda saw it in a vision and made it according to her vision, and she probably saw... So it's not the exact bracelet, but it's a copy of Tabitha's bracelet that she reproduced from her vision. Because she was having all those visions of things that
she had seen things that hadn't even happened yet in Fromville in the 70s.
So it's kind of like a version of her paintings. It's just like a recreation.
Maybe. And as far as that goes, the bottle tree.
Yeah.
She made the one in the park.
Yeah.
She recreated it in the yard. What does that have to do with the bottle trees in Fromville?
Right.
Did she make them? Did they already exist? Did she get the idea for the art installation because she had a vision of the real one in From?
Maybe.
Like, what's the...
Maybe she created the faraway trees in the first place. I don't...
There's so many questions.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get any more answers today. But lots and lots and lots of things to keep in mind as we move forward through this series. But again, my biggest thing right now is I want to know what the heck Victor's story is that he's about to tell Sarah. I can't wait for that.
Yes.
And we better get it in episode 4.
We better.
And not leave it until later.
Nope.
And where else are we at? Oh, the food hunting party is about to spend the night in the cabin. I think that's going to go poorly because they broke the totem, the creepy totem statues.
Yeah.
I think something about that. They're going to have a rough night. I think it's very possible somebody doesn't make it home. Probably one of the colony house residents.
Yes, the red shirts.
Yeah, probably one or both of them die. But yeah, they're not just going to wake up in the morning and go home. I don't think it's going to be as easy as that.
Okay. All right, we have anything else to say about this episode?
I think I covered it all. So next week we're going to talk about episode 4, and we're going to cover viewer reactions to episode 2.
Theoretically. No, yeah, we're definitely going to see.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, leave us your comments. So well, you can't leave us your comments about episode 2 because, yeah, we're already past that at this point. But yeah.
Leave us your comments on episode 3, and we'll get to them probably in episode 5 or whenever. At some point, we're going to be less ahead than we are right now.
Yes.
Because we're only as far ahead as we are right now because we have something that's going to interrupt our recording schedule in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And then I don't know where we're going to catch back up. So things might get a little wonky for us from here out. But whatever you comment, we will get to eventually if you comment something worth bringing up.
Yep. All right. We'd like to hear from you. What'd you think of the podcast? What'd you think of this episode? Give us your crazy-ass theories. Stacie, we reached at?
I can reach out on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of the Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell so that you're notified when new content drops, and there will be quite a bit of it coming up. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.